Hello, friends and neighbors. We are back again, just getting started. Looks like there's a good group of people in here. Hope y'all are doing good. We'll let everybody kind of filter in as I mute my phone finally. There we go. Hope y'all are doing good. It's been another week. Couple of things going on. I'm sure we'll talk about them all. I put Chris up on the thumbnail for the video just because I figure we'll start going at him. So, hey, guys. Craig, Norman, Daniel, what's up, you guys? Red Rocker, nice to see you. Kyle, Doug, Gary's in here. Steven, how are y'all? Glad you guys are doing well. Justin and some new ones like that. Firefighter, I don't know if you've been in here before. Welcome. Gonna start basically just with the whole welcome to June kind of thing. As of yesterday, the Chiefs got that $9.5 million back from their Berry contract. So at this point, Cap takes a nice jump. They're up over, I want to say, $26 million as of this morning. Last time I checked. So that's a sizable chunk now. And I think clearly they've been had an eye on signing Chris Jones. I think that kind of kicks up into gear now. I'm leaning towards with that extra chunk of dollars, and they haven't been able to make a trade that they have to use it on. I expect it to probably be done by the time he comes into camp. I don't think Chris Jones is going to hold out from camp, so I don't think it's going to be like a deadline or anything. But I have a feeling that's pretty much what's going to happen. So welcome in, everybody, as y'all are coming in here. Herb and Hog Farmer here, and Jason Morbian, how are you? Nice to see everybody. Good turnout for a Monday night. We're kind of back on the thing. For those of you that care, tonight's beer is a red ale, kind of an Irish thing, a little hoppier than that from Ecliptic out in Oregon. Great brewery, good beer. Not my favorite of theirs, but a good one. What Jones does is too important to let go, and I think the team is well aware of that. I don't think they have any desire to stretch anything out in terms of signing him. So I expect that it's going to come on pretty quickly. You'd like to have him in there first day of camp without question. I don't think it's going to happen before then, so, I mean, don't look for him next week at mini camp or anything like that. But we do have some things to talk about. I'm sure there'll be plenty of questions. I just want to touch on a couple of them. One that to this point, without trades, the team is banking on Charvarius Ward. I think that's okay. He seems like he's up for it from what we've seen in practice, a couple of nice plays. He's got to be a playmaker, and he's got to be solid. And I think for him in particular, for being a guy who was 1 year with Sutton's crew and then change, and I'm still an Al Harris fan. I think he's a good coach. But I think while it's kind of changing gears for a young guy, I think it's also kind of a breath of fresh air. I think he wants to be aggressive. The more that I see, the more I think that they might play a healthy dose of zone, which is going to be a little bit taxing on him because I think he's best when he's up tight to somebody and can use his hands. So that's going to be a little bit of a challenge for him. In other news, Damien Williams is the number one. I've been leaning that way all offseason, and I think we've talked about that a little bit. I know everybody's fired up about the young guys, and that's great. They should be, but Damien Williams is the starter. Bieniemy was really clear about that. They expect him to do well as the feature back. Now, that doesn't mean they can't give a little sidestep and feature somebody else in some relief, especially I was happy to see that it's Darrell Williams that took the reps with the ones when Damien wasn't available. Now, that's just OTAs. That doesn't necessarily mean anything, but it's a positive sign. I think the big question is we haven't really seen Carlos Hyde do anything yet. Is he healthy? That seems to always be the question with him. And you've heard me talk about it on the podcast. And for those of you that are new, I do see some new names in here that I don't recognize. So welcome. But also, I run the Locked On Chiefs podcast with Chris and with Seth and a bunch of guests that are on there pretty regular, including Matt Derrick from Chiefs Digest. So we get a nice mix of opinion and insider information and that kind of stuff. So you can go over and listen to that. It's on the YouTube channel too. But the best way to listen to it is on the podcast on, Google or Apple or Himalaya, any of those. So With that's the big things that have been standing out to me. I'm interested to see what they do this week. This is going to be kind of the culmination. Can any of the rookies get in with the ones and actually, get some serious reps when they're looking at doing 7-on-7s and particularly in the 11s? That's going to be the determining factor. So with that, we'll start with the questions. I don't know that I thought I saw one earlier, but I missed it. So if you asked your question already, put it back in there if you would, and hit the question marks at the beginning. It really helps. First one, Michael Mont, down to 4 arms for camp. Would you like to see another QB purely for camp reasons? And actually, no. I think this is good. You're going to keep 3. And you want to determine whether that 4th guy is worth trying to keep around as a practice squad guy, right? So it's always better, in my opinion, even for a guy like Mahomes, who had such an MVP season, but is still a relatively young quarterback and has a lot of things that he can still improve on. Little things, details. That all takes reps. So I think at the end of the day, splitting reps 4 ways in the OTAs and minicamp and then later in training camp, I think that's a good thing. I think it gives everybody else a little bit more handle and a little bit more work with the wide receivers. And I think that helps everybody develop. So I'm actually really comfortable with it right now. And I think they have got a good group. I'm interested to see if one of those guys can really jump in and claim the number 3. It's Litton's by default right now, but he's got to keep it because whoever earns the number 3 is the guy you're going to be looking at as the backup possibly next season when Chad Henne's contract gets a little overbloated and maybe they got to think about doing something. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, but it could be. So something to keep on. The guy who wins 3 now is going to be the incumbent for the backup next season. So that's where it is. And you guys are asking a bunch of questions already. That's great. Thank you. I already scrolled out of it. Let me get to the second one. Ian Connis, as of right now, who are the 11 defensive starters? Don't worry about Jones not being there. He's a starter. Jones, naughty. I believe it's going to be Agba with Frank Clark in the base. When they go nickel, I think it's probably more Okafor because he's got a little bit of pass drop there and a mixture of Breeland Speaks and passing downs. Then at the linebackers, I still feel like it's going to be Wilson, Rags, and probably Hitchens at the will. That's when they start camp. I think they're going to find that I don't think Hitchens can cover enough ground as a will. And then it's going to be, what do you do with him? Because he makes the most money, but I think the best true attacking, especially blitzing middle linebacker is Ragland. And they have him running with the ones right now. So from all reports that I've seen, Reggie Ragland is moving as well as they've ever seen him in a Chiefs uniform. That's positive, and that's indicative of what that fight's going to be like. So that's what I think. And then as of right now, it's going to be Ward, Fuller, Breeland, Matthew, and Thornhill. Good question. Carlos Ruiz, how are you, bud? How do you feel about Byron Pringle as the 3? I think that's pushing it. And that's assuming that you mean it's Watkins and D-Rob. I don't know that that's going to be true either. A lot of folks are up in arms about Demarcus Robinson. I'm just saying he makes some good plays. He does. He makes some bonehead plays too. And more importantly, there are a lot of plays, especially early in downs, where he doesn't get open. He has to make those ad-lib plays after the play breaks down and Mahomes gets out of the pocket. That's not indicative of a guy that you can go at over and over and over. So I still feel like he's probably the 3rd. I think Hardman might move into the 2 eventually. Pringle as the 3, I'm just not sure about. I haven't seen enough. Maybe when I see them in camp, and I'll be there for a weekend in camp at some point. When we see that, then it'll be easier to tell because right now you just don't get to see it with your own eyes. And with the injury and being out all season, looks like he's making some plays, but I just can't tell. And then obviously the elephant in the room, is Tyreek going to be available? Don't know. So, yeah. Good question, though. Wayne, can the Chiefs D-line be better than the 2007 Giants D-line? I don't think so. I don't think they have that many horses right now. Those guys were good, and they had a bunch of edge rushers. They lined up all over the place. I don't know that Breeland Speaks is that way. I think Breeland's going to get a shot to play more of a down lineman role. He's going to rotate, I think, at tackle. And you might see them do some overloads even, where they keep 3 tackles out there, and he rushes from like heads up on a 5 technique rather than out wide. And they kind of trying to play with the Sam and the blitzing backers too. But No, I don't think they're going to be that good. They're going to be good, but I don't think they're going to be like that. Cool Mars, to follow up on the Pringle question, is it deserved? I think it's fans wanting it, but I'm hearing good things out of camp too, from people who do get to see it, from the beat reporters and a couple of other people that get to see it with their eyes. So it is a bit of hype. It's a bit of wanting a local kid to do well, but it's also that he's making plays. So, for right now, it's all positive for him. Let's see. Next question. Austin Hugh. How? Any expected timeline for Hill? No, there is no timeline for Hill whatsoever. They might get a decision in the legal case about the custody thing, but the Chiefs are not going by that. He's not being charged as of now. If the DA could change his mind tomorrow and charge him. He could come out in 3 weeks and say, I still have not enough evidence. I'm not going to charge anybody. There's a lot of things that can happen. So there's no way to put a timeline on it, in my opinion. Anybody who tells you that is guessing. So we'll just have to see what happens. Hog Farmer, sorry you missed it. Phobos, a single hopped red ale in the Irish style, but a little bit hoppier, from Ecliptic in Oregon. Good beer. Let's see here. Stark 815. I don't know what that means, but it sounds like a Tony Stark reference. I'm down. Usually takes 1 to 2 years to successfully transition into this offense. Do you think Hardman can get 60 grabs in an offense if Hill's out? 60 might be pushing it. I think you're going to see Sammy, as long as he's healthy, and Kelsey get the number of touches that Kelsey and Hill got last year. Now, when Sammy gets hurt, that's what's going to be the question. And I don't expect Sammy to play 16 games. I feel like he feels he's in better shape. He looks like he's in better shape to me. He looks lighter, and I think that's good for him. Can you get 14 games out of Sammy? Can you get 13? I think that's great. And in those 3 games, that's going to be an opportunity for Mecole Hardman to step up. I think that's going to be the determining factor on just how successful his season is. Now, if Hill's there, then all bets are off. Because if Hill is there and Watkins is there, and you sprinkle in Hardman in the slot, that's too much to cover. And I think he might be the guy that is left alone more, or left in single coverage more. And then I think, I don't know about 60, but he could get close to that, because at the end of the day, teams are scared of Kelsey. They're scared of Hill, and they're somewhat scared of Watson. If McColl's the 4th guy out there, he might be the one who gets all the cleanup duties. So I could see him doing well there. Natalie, hey, nice to see the ladies in here tonight. I know a couple of you are here, so welcome. Thank you for joining us. Any word on Mark Fields? Is he participating? Yes, he is participating. And from what I hear, he's doing well, but he is looking like a rookie. Assignment-wise, there's some breakdowns, etc. Still learning. But technique-wise, he's all there. And as I go back and I look at more of his film, I do feel like the mental part of it, the coachability part of it, is the only thing that is his limitation. When I look at the way that he moves, when I look at the way that he breaks on the ball in the air, I think he is going to make this team. I just don't know where. Is it going to be a 6th corner? Maybe. Can he break in above that? I don't know. I think Fenton, while he's athletic, he's more instinctual than athletic, where I think Fields is he's the fastest corner they have. He's also, I think, overall athletics probably right up there with Fuller. So Ward's quick, but he doesn't change direction as quickly as some of the others. So it's a little bit of a toss-up, but he's got all the tools. It's going to be, how fast can you learn this defense, and can you show that you're reliable to be in the right spot and understand and execute your assignment? But I think Mark Fields has a good chance here, Natalie. I think he's probably going to make this team. Dr. Sanitary 43, welcome. It's kind of irrelevant. What do you think? The Chiefs did make a no-brainer move and signed Trey Boston. I don't think it's going to happen. I've been calling for that for like a year, and Dave Merritt's here, and he coached Boston last year in Arizona, and they haven't made any attempt to grab him. So I don't think they're worried about it. I think they feel Thornhill's going to be their free safety and that he can do the job. And I think they feel like probably Armani Watts can step in if there's an injury or something like that. Watts did get back on the field last week, so that's a positive sign for Armani. Robert Cole, hey, thanks for the donation. Folks, the Super Chat's open. It's that little $ sign at the bottom. If you want to contribute to the channel, feel free. I'm going to do some giveaways come the season and that kind of thing, some RGR gear. That's the other way. If you want to help support the channel and, lighting and the software and all that stuff that I have to spend money on, feel free. The store's open. The Teespring, you can get shirts and hats and whatever, or not hats yet. I'm working on that. Cups and whatever. So feel free. A lot of folks ask about that, and I appreciate it very much. Doesn't take a lot, and you should get something for it. So, Robert, come back and ask me a question. If you make a donation in the chat room, make sure you ask a question because you deserve to get the attention. And if anybody wants to grab some shirts and sweats or whatever, feel free. That always helps too. Thank you, Robert. Hog Farmer, do you think trading Darron Daniel and Reggie Ragland for Bobby Wagner? He isn't a free agent, but he's in the last year of his contract, and they're not going to trade him. He's not leaving Seattle. It's going to be a question about how much they pay him. And honestly, they don't want Reggie Ragland or Daniel Sorensen. Maybe Sorensen. Maybe. Their safeties are a little bit thinner. Bradley McDougald, who went to KU, who was in Chiefs camp a few years ago, is their starter. And that he's kind of a journeyman as well. So I think Sorensen could have a little bit of value out there, but it's not going to be anything I think worth trading for. And I think Spags is going to end up liking him. So I think he's going to be here. Dave Perez, how many running backs do they carry on the roster? Is Hyde on the bubble? I think there's going to be 4, and I think Hyde is on the bubble. It all depends on just how hurt is he right now. Can he get on the field and make an impact, or is it something that's dragging that is going to keep him kind of limbering as he gets going? If he can hit the field and hit it all running, he might be overtake some of these guys. But right now, I think he's an experiment, and I don't know if he's going to make it. I think his running style is a little bit tougher than Darrel Williams, but I think Darrel can do a lot of that inside running. And I think Darrel showed on the goal line at the end of last season against the Colts. He got in on the goal line. He caught a touchdown last year, so he can certainly play in the pass game like Andy Reid wants. So Darrel Williams is a backup, but he's a pretty good backup. And I think he's low cost, he's high effort, and he's shown that he can play. So dislodging Darrel Williams as the backup to Damien Williams is going to be tough. But Carlos is a veteran. And if he still has that spring and he is healthy, he can do it. I just don't know if he will. Good question, though, Dave. Tina, how are you? Do you think that Hill will play 16 games, or does Mahomes? If so, does Mahomes win the MVP again? I don't think Mahomes is limited by whether Tyreek Hill plays or not. You're going to hear a lot of people say that he is. I don't think so. The thing about Patrick Mahomes, he can put the ball wherever it needs to be. And as long as you have guys that can get separation and get downfield, which they are being very specific in the way that they build the back end of their wide receiver core, Patrick's going to make plays. I don't think Tyreek Hill plays 16 games, no. At this point, I feel like there's been enough time for evidence discovery. We can ask Seth about that if you guys really want to. He doesn't like to get into it. And honestly, I don't either about the legalities of things. But bottom line, I feel like if they were going to find something, they've been investigating for a long time, and I think they probably would have. I think there's a lot of back and forth, and I think that relationship is really screwed up on a lot of different levels. So I don't know. I feel like if he's not charged, the Chiefs aren't going to release him. There's probably a lot of counseling in his future and some other things. And there's probably a suspension from the league, which is somewhat unfair because he hasn't been proven to have actually done anything, which is usually the standard for a suspension. But there's also the thing about embarrassing the league. And I think Roger Goodell takes that seriously. So I do expect a suspension, 2 to 6 games, something like that, unless something else comes out that is specifically against him. If he's charged, he'll be put on the NFI list. He will not be able to play in the league, and I think the Chiefs will release him eventually. I don't think it'll be right away because the NFI list, you can come off of it, and then somebody else could sign you, just like we saw with Kareem Hunt. So I don't think that's in Tyreek Hill's future. I think the Chiefs are going to retain his rights because of the game-changing player that he is. It's a big topic. Sorry, that's just where I'm feeling about it today. Thank you, Tina, though. I appreciate the question. And another lady in the chat room. Thank you. Okay, Cool Mars. How many tight ends do you keep? I think they're going to keep 3. I don't think there's a 4th that warrants it. And honestly, I'm still struggling to see what happens. I think my guy, Jody Fortson, who you heard on the podcast, he was with us a couple weeks ago, signed as a wide receiver. I think he's a practice squad option. I think he's going to be with this team for a while. I just don't know that he's going to break onto the 53 man. They like that guys that can pass catch, but Jody's a former wide receiver. He's not a blocker hardly at all. They keep bringing in blocking tight ends to see if they're going to fit and if they have enough athleticism and pass catching ability to be a weapon in the offense as well. And it doesn't seem to be working out there either. So right now, I'm really keen to see what Dion Yelder does. I'm still high on him from his college days. Hopefully, he's continuing to progress, understanding the game more. Physically, he can play in the NFL. I just don't know if mentally he's there yet or assignment-wise. That's what we have to figure out. And I'm really intrigued by the quarterback, John Lovett. Last week, BJ Kissel was hyping him up. He's making plays in practice. Matt Mullen's putting him on the Twitter feed. I mean, the interesting thing about the NFL is Twitter feeds tell you a lot. You can be on Facebook and other social media or just look at the Chiefs site. But the guys that they put on their Twitter feed, the official feed or BJ's, that tells you who they're noticing and who they're fronting to some effect. So pay a little bit of attention to that. Daniel Collins, do you feel Khalil McKenzie take any meaningful snaps? I think he can work his way into the twos. I think it's kind of wide open back there. There's a lot of guys with a lot of potential. Could he be a practice squad guy? He could, but they kept him on the 53 for a reason because I think teams are going to pick him up. So it's going to be one of those things. If you want Khalil McKenzie, if he shows enough progression in this preseason, he's going to make the 53 because they can't take the chance at trying to stash him because some other team will grab him. Good question, though. Metal Rocker, do you have I don't watch the NBA, man. I don't know anything about it. Samuel, would the Patriots pay Chris Jones? Probably not. They don't like to pay. I mean, he's young. They might, but Trey Flowers was fairly young too. So I don't know. Doesn't matter because he's going to be a Chief. Digger, hi to Chiefs Planet. How are you guys? I haven't been on in a bit. Haven't been on Arrowhead, guys, in a bit yet either. I like to visit both boards when I can. I've been really busy this whole draft season, and man, getting sick and all, I haven't had a chance to talk. So hope you all are doing good, and thanks for everybody checking it out on both of those. Let's see, Gary, how do you feel about Pringle and Fenton making the 53? I think Pringle's got a very good shot, and I think Fenton's got a shot too. I think there is scenarios where they could both make it. So, answer Kumar. Justin, I don't know who's going to make the Super Bowl. I'll probably have a better idea once the opening week comes around. I got to see what happens in camp. There's always a couple of major injuries. So, I mean, if Goff goes down, the Rams are in trouble. That's just the way it is. Brady goes down, the Pats are in trouble. There's a number of things that could happen that doesn't take a whole lot of time to ruin a team's chances. So, yeah, get back with me week one, and we'll figure that out. Aaron Geckley, how much faith do you have in Wilson as a Sam? That's what he did in Dallas. They liked him, but clearly not enough to keep him, right? I have faith that Matt House knows how to coach defense and linebackers in particular. And I think if there's any trepidation at all, this thing with Hitch or Rags in the middle, you could put Hitch in there in a pinch. You might even be able to put Neiman in there in a pinch. You now have Lee and Dorian O'Daniel. So you have two guys that can play the will. And if you have to go to that 3 safety set, like I talked about with Eric Eager, and the podcast should be coming out here in a couple minutes. Eric Eager's on the Locked On Chiefs today. And we talked about that, about getting into the nickel stuff. They've got enough talent at linebacker that I think they can be okay. What I do see is I hear that Wilson's practicing well, and I hear that he's getting a lot of attention from the coaches. So I think they're making the investment to make sure that he's a good fit. Good question. Aligo, thank you. I appreciate that. Justin, the amount of camp space, do they sign Jones this week or do they make a move? I think they're still exploring a move. But I think it's going to come down to camp, whether somebody's going to eventually wrangle Patrick Peterson out of Arizona. I don't think that's a done deal. I'm not sure that he plays for them. I just don't know where he'll play. But this certainly allows you to sign Chris Jones and have room for a trade like that. I think PP's cap number's like 11 this year. And it's sitting at 27. They have enough. Whatever they do with Chris Jones when they sign the extension, his base salary this season is going to be low. That's their normal contract structure. The agents agree to it. It's not going to be a negotiating tactic. I think it's going to be fine. So they're going to have plenty of room just to make a signing or a trade for a signing. So, or for that cap space, I mean. So I'm not worried about that. Good question. Ian, can Chase Leaton be the primary backup to Mahomes? I don't think so yet. I still think he's got a ways to go, but he's got the arm strength, and I think next year he definitely could. Good question. Parker Wigby, do you have the Chargers ahead of the Chiefs this season? No, I do not. They are very, very close. But there's changes on their offense. There's changes in their secondary, and they're still relying on Joey Bosa. When Joey Bosa plays 16 games this season, I'll start to worry. Until then, they're the 1B. The Chiefs, this is their division until they screw it up. So that's where I'm sitting. Let's see here. Bryce Setterberg, how are you? I've heard a few rumbles about Josh Norman getting cut. If Josh Norman gets cut, not a trade, but if he gets cut, he is an option. He's a zone corner, though. Make no mistake about it. He does not play man well. Passable, yes. But right now, I see Spags still playing man probably 60%. 40% zone, which is a lot more than the Chiefs played. If I remember the last time, I don't have 2018's numbers, but we did get 2017's, and they only played zone like 18% or something like that. Spags is going to do that a lot more, but I don't think he's going to go to a predominant zone. So that's a question mark. Ever since he left the Panthers, Josh Norman's been not as good because of the scheme. But if you are going to get comfortable playing more zone, he makes plays. He's solid in his own scheme. He can play man in a pinch. He's not as good as Breeland and Fuller, who he happened to play with in Washington. So I think, or no, he replaced them. He replaced Fuller, wasn't it? Yeah, something like that. But similar scheme dynamics. And I think the three of them might be interesting. I just don't know. It all depends on what Spags wants to do. If they're going to stay 60% man, then I don't think Josh Norman's an option. Good question, though. Red Rocker, who'll be the captain of the defense? It'll be Jones and Matthew. I'm pretty certain of that. Might be Ragland. They really like his leadership. He's a little deficient in performance right now, but I think they still feel Spags was very optimistic about him last week, and I think they feel that he can make a push and be a player for them. So I still feel like he's in there. I would still trade for a top corner. Dr. Santario, who would you rather have, Norman or Jenkins? Jenkins can play more man. He's not as good. It's a trade-off. So whoever's going to come in cheaper, whoever's hungrier, whoever has a lot more to prove, like maybe Norman, maybe one of them. I don't know. It's about fit. Cool Mars, do you think Eric Berry could come back? No. I think that bridge is burnt. I think he's pissed. I don't think he wants to play for the Chiefs. I think he's over it. I'm not sure Eric can play anymore. He just might not be able to. We'll see if a team takes a chance on him. He says he wants to, but we'll have to find out. Talked about Peterson. Do you feel, Metal Rocker, do you feel the pick between Edelman and Murray for the Chiefs to target as a free agent trade, which would you choose? DeMarco Murray? I wouldn't trade for either of them. One, Edelman will never be traded. Honestly, Edelman will never play for anybody else. He'll never leave. Even if he becomes a free agent and they try to cut him, he won't go anywhere. I'll bet you he'll hang it up before he plays for anybody else. If he would, he's a unique talent. He's got the best short area quickness of any receiver I've ever recorded. Did anyone beat him? No. He's got the best. He is the gold standard for short area quickness, jump cuts, whip routes, pivot routes, all of that. He's getting older. If you could have him, at a decent rate, then maybe I could see it. But I don't think it'll ever happen. Myron, do you think the Chiefs offense could look like with Hill and Mecole? Hill and Mecole could switch. If they're both available and they're both practicing, it's about learning the offense for Hardman. When he gets to that point, they like to move everybody around. And I think that would be the primary thing. We're switching Mecole and Hill so that they could both motion, maybe stuff like that between the slot and the Z. That's what I would see. Nadeem, what do you think of Darius Slay? He said he isn't going to mandatory minicamp until he gets a better contract. Think we can trade for him? No, I don't think they're going to let him go. He doesn't have a lot of negotiating power. He can hold out if he wants, but they own him. I don't think they're going to give him up. And I don't know that it'd be worth it. I don't know. It's a lot of baggage. I don't know that you want to bring in more baggage specifically at that position. So yeah, I wouldn't probably go there. Should they sign Maurice Claiborne? Maurice. I always say that wrong. A vet presence wouldn't hurt. You got Breland and you got Fuller, so you're okay there. It might be more headache than it's worth. Whatever you do, it's got to be an upgrade over Ward. That's the thing. Ward's a good young corner with developmental potential. They got to be better than him. That's what it comes down to. And I don't know that you can say that about Morris right now. Okay, answer Gary's question earlier. Gary, if you missed it, just scroll on back. Craig Murphy, thank you. I appreciate the donation. Go Bruins. I don't know what you speak of, but happy hockey season, I guess. Cool Mars. Oh yeah, same Edelman question. Chief Fan 58. Seen any improvement out of K-Pass or McKenzie? Haven't seen anything from either of them myself. The few reps that I've been able to see via someone else was not focusing on them. I think K-Pass is an interesting case. I talked about McKenzie early. If you missed it, just kind of scroll back. I think K-Pass is an interesting case because he's going back to where he doesn't have to try to be an outside linebacker. He never was in college. They thought he could make the transition, much like Speaks. Now they're abandoning that transition for both of them. They're both going to be DNs. Speaks is going to play some inside at D tackle too. I think that's why he's so heavy. For those of you that are worried about Speaks and his weight, I think they told him, you're going to play inside some. He's rotating at both positions. So that weight is probably something that they needed him to have a little bit more of. I wish it was better weight, but it is what it is. So I'm interested to see what K-Pass does. I think rushing from a wide nine in particular is something he's very good at. That's where his bread and butter was. So it's whether he can string together what the new coaching staff is teaching him and perform to where they want him. That'll be whether he makes the roster or not. Could you trade Cleveland for Kareem Hunt back? No, Hog Farmer, no. Everyone let go of Kareem Hunt. He's never playing Kansas City again. You don't want him in Kansas City again. He will get in trouble again. It's just going to be for Cleveland. So don't worry about it. I see a lot of folks, especially on Twitter, really wanting Kareem Hunt back. He screwed you guys over. He screwed the organization over twice, 3 times. Let it go. It's not worth it. Sorry. I just have to vent that sometimes because I feel bad for people wanting somebody that A, they can't get, and B, isn't really going to help them anyway. Ian, I don't know what contract numbers for Chris Jones are going to look like. I'll be as surprised as you when they come out. I think he's going to get upwards of 16, 17 a year, though. How many years and how much money and how much guaranteed, I have no clue. Next question. Oh, Kyle K, thanks for your donation. Better chance at being a star, Ward or Speaks? Whew, that's a good one. You saw Speaks have flashes. He's aware. And he played well as an end/tackle in college. Ward's more of a mystery to me. Whew, that's a really good question. Right now, I'm going to go with... He's repping with the ones. I'm going to go with Ward for right now. He's got the opportunity. But I think that's a very close question. That's a good one. Let's see here. Asked that. Ian, do you think the Chiefs should use Darron Lee to bring... How do you think they should use him to bring out his first-round talent? I don't think they should put him in the middle. The Jets tried that, and I didn't think that was that successful. I think you got to set him up to run and attack. He's got to be a will. He's got to be off the ball. He's got to be disguised. I'd like to see them put him behind, have that Leo out there where he can blitz off of. I'd like to see him and Frank Clark lined up together a lot of the time. Obviously, Frank's not going to flip much. I don't think he did in Seattle. So it's going to be about, offensive alignment. But I think letting him run and use his athletic ability is really the best way to get the most out of Darron Lee. And by the way, Darron Lee seems very pumped from everything I've seen to be in Kansas City. From his interviews, from his social media, he's happy to be here. I think he feels like it's a breath of fresh air and he can kind of start over. And I think that's another opportunity for him to show his athleticism. So good for him. Okay, next. That was a good question, Ian. Okay, Luis. Do you think the Chiefs are waiting for minicamp to end, or they're waiting on all the preseason to end so that they can take a look at cornerbacks? I don't think it has anything to do with the Chiefs. I'm sure they have feelers out. I think it's the other teams that are trying to decipher whether they have enough talent to let somebody go. I think that's what it's going to come down to in Arizona for the Cardinals, and I think that's probably what's going to happen with the Giants as well. Good question, though. How is Darwin Thompson? He's running, well back. I think he's taking reps with the threes, from what I heard. Darwin Thompson isn't an instant starter, you guys. I know a lot of you want him and that you're excited about him being there, and he's got some great talent, some good attributes. He's not a starting running back day one. He's not going to be. He might fill in. I think the best way Darwin Thompson gets on this field is if Damien Williams gets hurt. I think you're going to see Darrell Williams become the first and second down back. If Damien Williams is out for any time, I think Darrell is the starter, takes on first and second down, some thirds. And when they're really in pass sets, I think you're going to see James Washington make this roster, and he's going to be the guy that they split out when they want to do the things that they used to do with Kareem Hunt. That's just my take right now because I know he can do it. Darwin Thompson is a question mark. We got to see how he makes it through camp. If he really is tough enough at his size to make it through an NFL camp, this is all question marks. So it is what it is. Good question though. Kyle K, thank you very much. I answered your question before. Thanks for the donation. Oh shoot, scrolled too far. Hold on. Andy Humberg, how are you, buddy? Thanks for the $5, Andy. I'm sure I owe you more than that right now. So, Steve Rose, thank you for yours. Clint White, thank you for yours. What's the bold prediction for who makes the roster and who do you think the Chiefs should do with their cap space? I think the only thing that can help you on defense right now is a corner that's better than Ward. I think you could, if you wanted to make a trade, I think you could try to go out and get somebody for a tight end position. Rudolph wants a new contract, so I don't know that it's going to be him. I think you want somebody athletic and maybe a second-tier guy that isn't going to cost much, but you could eat up some of that cap that way. Otherwise, hold on to it. Get ready to pay Mahomes. Get ready to pay Hill. If he stays on the roster, they are going to have to pay him. And the problem with trying to go to a more team protective contract structure so that if he were to ever get in trouble, it's not a lot of dead money to cut him or anything like that. That requires making his base salary higher, and that makes his cap number higher. So you got to save some for that too, because if Tyreek Hill remains on the roster and gets through this okay, they're going to have to come up with some contract structure that protects them from any incident off the field so they can cut him without a whole lot of penalty, but is also going to pay him. He's going to be cheaper than he was, but he's not going to be cheap. So I think that's what they're going to probably do with it. Who do you think have the 3 worst contracts? That's a good question. I think for production wise, what their capability is on the field. I think it's Sorensen. I think you could argue that it's Watkins and Hitchens to this point. Now, Watkins and Hitchens have pedigrees. They have been able to perform in the past. It's whether they can put it all together and stay healthy. Okay, so I can take a role on that. Sorensen has made some plays as well. I don't like the way he plays. More importantly, I don't like the way Sutton used him. So that's as much on Sutton, if not more on Sutton than it is on Sorensen. So if Sorensen plays in the box and blitzes and gets home and makes a couple of plays here and there, he's earned his contract. But that has to happen from the coaching staff. And if that does happen, I will shut up about getting rid of Dan Sorensen. Dan, if you're watching, sorry, pal. I know you don't like what I say about you, but there's ways to change it. Steven, Clint, thanks for your donations. I don't see questions, though, guys, so come back and ask me again. Hog Farmer, do you feel like Andy Reid might be on the fence this year and possibly fired? No, not at all. If they don't make the Super Bowl, no. Clark Hunt, just like his dad, is going to be happy to be a 12-win team that goes into the playoffs with playoff wins each season. The Marty era, where they were perennially a playoff team, is good for business. It's good for business outside of the Chiefs for a businessman like Hunt. I think he's hungrier than his dad was at the end of his life. So I think Clark does want to get to the Super Bowl. But if they don't make it this year, he's not going to blame Andy, especially with all this change on defense. It's not going to be, hey, you didn't get there and you got to get out. No. Andy will have more rope than he probably deserves for a very, very long time. But the good thing is it's not Philly, and he's not making all the personnel choices. Yes, he's heavily influencing Brett Veach, but Brett Veach is doing his thing too. And I think that's going to be the insulating factor that is going to keep it from getting to the point where it did in Philly. So I think Andy Reid's going to be here for a very long time until he decides to retire, to tell you the truth. Okay, good question. Next one. Okay, Red Rocker. Do you think Kelsey's knee will be okay? I think its surgery was on his ankle, and I do think he's going to be fine. The way he's dancing around and stuff at practice, that tells you that he's able to put weight on it. They're not, keeping him in a boot. I think he's going to be just fine. They're being cautious. He's not a guy that needs the OTAs. He is a vested veteran at this point. He is well on his way. I think he's going to be fine. I think it's more about managing him now. He is a little bit older. Remember, he got that injury when he was his first year in the league, so he's like a year behind. Just take it easy with him. I think what they're doing is cautious. It's not like out of concern that he's not going to heal. Sam, thank you. I appreciate it. Jerry Cole made it in. How are you, bud? I like Mike Hilton for CB at CB for the Chiefs. What are your thoughts on picking him up? He's quick and he can stop the run really well. I think he's okay. I don't think he can be pushed by some of the receivers that the Chiefs are going to have to play. AB's in this division now, folks. Somebody's going to have to stop him twice a year. Not just that playoff time when they run into the Steelers. This is a different thing. I'm not as high on him as you are. He might be a good addition. I'd put him. I don't know that he'd beat out Ward right now. So that kind of tells you where he'd be, I think. How do you feel about the UDFA CB from New Mexico? New Mexico. I'll have to go back and look. I don't know. The big UDFA cornerback that is going to make the roster or push for the roster is going to be Fields out of Clemson. I'll take a look at that and get back to you. Sorry, Jason. Stephen Rose, thank you for your donation. Carliners. Oh, I hope that's a business name or I just ruined it. Is Spags old school guy or is he a player's coach? He's a bit of both. His players love him. In New Orleans, I mean, they were adamant about him. I think, but he's a hard ass too. He's an old school guy. He called the OTAs pajama practices last week, which I think is hilarious. I used to hear that in high school. So he's got that mentality about him. He's 60-ish, so he comes from an old school. He's not a new age kind of guy. But he is a player's coach too. So I think that's a good mix. I've never met him personally, so I don't know. I would like to meet him and see how he works. But it's a bit of both, I think. Roland Roberts. So we have to roll with Watkins as number one. Will that change Mahomes' game at all? Not Mahomes' game. He won't have as many opportunities to go super deep. But Sammy's got good speed too. It's going to be more crossers, 20, 30 yards. The 40, 50-yard thing isn't going to happen. I don't think Sammy gets loose like that. You're going to have to wait for Hardman for that kind of stuff. Hardman does have the speed to do some of that, but Hardman isn't going to take that 8-yard dump off on the right hash and weasel his way all the way down for 70 yards on the left-hand side. That's Tyreek Hill, and that's what makes him Tyreek Hill. So they're going to have to do some other things. But from time to time, Watkins can get loose, and Hardman can definitely get loose and stretch the field. You can see some bombs to him. So it's about when Hardman can get on the field and get Andy to let him have those reps. Andy Humberg, thank you for your donation, pal. I will get back to you. I hope you stayed around for the chat as well. At the end of the year, could you see Darwin Thompson starting? Trenton Prettyman. No, I don't, unless everybody else gets injured. I think Thompson's going to be a nice change of pace from time to time. But as a rookie, no, I don't see him starting. Again, unless there's a major injury. Williams, the law firm of Williams and Williams will be in control, I believe. At the let's see, Metal Rocker again. Do the Raiders and Broncos give us some trouble? They're improved as well. Trouble? I'm not sure. I don't feel like the Broncos offense is going to be in a position to keep up with Mahomes for sure. I don't know. It's a toss-up. I like Mike Mayock. I think he and Gruden are coming at it from different angles, and I just don't know what they're doing. It just doesn't make sense to me. They say they want to go character guy, and they drafted character guys, and then they sign these free agents that are all troublemakers. So I don't know. I still feel like the Raiders are going to be just, a ship without a rudder, no way to steer and just drifting. We'll find out. Let's see here. Leo Cruz, do you think our division is the best in the NFL? It seems like each year they get better and better. I don't know. It's up there. I don't know if it's going to be the best in the NFL. Every time I say that, I'm wrong. So I'm a little gun shy at this point. But I think it's the most competitive division. Maybe not the best overall, but I do think it's the most competitive. So the winner of the AFC West is a tough team to beat in the playoffs no matter what. Hi, Aaron. How are you? Austin, how are you? What do you think of keeping Lovett as the tight end 3 and the QB 3 in a pinch? No, he's not a QB. They're not repping him at QB. He's not an NFL quarterback. His college career did not prepare him to play in the NFL. That's why they put him on his athleticism, and they'll keep him as a tight end as long as he can make it. Corey Kirkland, 3 of the 6 division games are in December. Do you potentially foresee us fighting LA Chargers until the end like last year? That's exactly what I see. I think the Chargers are going to win a lot of games. I think there's maybe 3 or 4 teams that are going to beat the Chargers. The Chiefs are one of them. The Chiefs can't have a letdown, though. They can't do what they did last year. I don't think they will, because I put that loss against the Chargers late. I put solely on Sutton myself. But yeah, I think it is going to come down to the end. Ian, do you think Tremont Smith plays meaningful snaps this season? At corner? No, I don't see that happening. I haven't heard anything about him making any improvement at corner. At kick returner, yes, but that's about it. Could change in camp for all I know. I'll have a better idea. Once we're in camp and I can see practices every day, and I will see some in person, I'll be able to tell you better. Justin, I'm sorry. I don't know where it is. It should be right underneath the line that you type in. Jacob Fords, anyone watching the Final Cup? Okay, no, sorry. Or the Cup Final, sorry. Not me. I'm pretty much NFL, and that's about it. Next question. Did Saunders ever sign? I heard today that he signed firefighter farmer. I haven't seen the official release yet, though, but I did hear that he signed today. So that means everybody's in camp and we're ready to go in terms of the rookie class. I'll wait for that. Will he make the 53? Yes, definitely. Unless Colin Saunders breaks his leg, he will be on this 53. I think he's going to play a lot of snaps, to tell you the truth. I think he will eventually unseat Xavier Williams for that third spot along the defensive line. It's going to be about whether they want to play the true under that is more of like a nose one technique type thing, because Williams has him beat there. But yeah, Saunders will definitely be on this roster. Hog Farmer, thank you. Gary Holland, how do you feel about the Chiefs defense will do against the run this year? I think they've made a big investment in stopping the run. That's what all these big guys are for in the front. And I think if Spags is approaching it the way that I would approach it, and it seems like he is because they have Reggie Ragland as their number one in the middle, that's a run stopping position. So it feels to me like they're making a concerted effort to win on first down against the run and put themselves in a better second and long type situation. I do feel like they will be better at that. Will they be more susceptible against the pass on first down if they do? Yeah, probably. But hey, that's the way that goes. Okay. Deldrick Smith. Sorry, bud. Would you honestly be happy if Hill was on the field? I would, with Hardman, Hill, Kelsey, and Sammy. Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I think everyone's more upset about the possibility that Tyreek Hill did something monstrous to his kid because of what he did in college. There's no proof of it at all. There's rumors going around that a lot of this is fabricated between a couple that just has a toxic relationship. So I have nothing to base any of it on. So my thought is, unless he did something to deserve not being on the field, that he should be on the field. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's just my gut instinct, knowing what we know, which is, absolutely nothing. So hopefully the prosecutors and everybody else know more. But when the truth comes out, I'll be able to tell you for sure how I feel, because I just don't know anything. Sorry. Good question. Let's see. Who's next? Nadine. On Tyreek's son's Instagram, it shows that Tyreek playing with his son on the playground, so I'm pretty much cleared. I don't know if it's cleared. No, nothing's cleared in the eyes of the law. That just looks like happy vibes, and good for both of them. Robert Cole, thanks for your donation. Insult or flattery that BJ Kissel is doing a podcast now? I take that as flattery. I've been podcasting about the Chiefs this is my 6th year. Yeah, I was a failed writer before that. If you've ever read any of my articles, I'm sorry for the spelling and the grammar mistakes. I'll tell you that right now. This is why I talk into a microphone for all of this. No, BJ Kissel is a very, very smart guy. He knows football. He was an analyst as a blogger a long time ago. I'm a big fan of BJ, and he is very honest about his opinion, about his takes. Every time I talk to BJ, he is a stand-up guy. I am happy that he's doing this. It's not like he's coming after my podcast. My podcast is my opinion. His podcast is his. But the cool thing about his podcast is it's a lot of inside stories, inside scoops, access to players that he has, personal one-on-ones that I don't have. I don't have any of that. I think BJ does a really good job with what he does. So, Robert, flattery by a long shot. I think it does prove that the podcast and this kind of forum is legit. This is a good way to have conversations about a sport that you like. At the end of the day, it's just sport. So it's good to have interaction. This is not, life and death. So I think it's a good way to do it. And I think BJ does a good job of keeping it fairly positive without hiding the negatives. And I like what he does. So I think the more quality podcasts about the Chiefs, the better. Let's see. Who gets the green dot on D? Right now, I'm guessing it's Raglan. It may be Matthew eventually. What's up, Matt? How are you? Morbian 13, what are your thoughts on Kyle Shermer? I think he's in a competition with Litton, and I think that's a good thing. Gut instinct, looking at them on film from their respective years, I think Litton was a little bit better in terms of skill set, mechanics, physical stuff. I think Shermer's got an edge with his dad being who he is and understanding offense from a coordination type level. I think he's probably a little bit ahead. So I think it's a really interesting competition. It's two good guys to have in there. They're very low cost for the Chiefs that they can try to develop and compete against each other. And I think in the end, everybody's better for it. Justin, thank you. Hey, Maui, bro, how are you? I appreciate you coming in. Maui, Kona, which do you prefer? I like what Maui does. I think Kona does a really good job, especially their location out at Hawaii Kai. They do a really good job putting beers with food. I was really impressed with that. That was my big takeaway. I was there last year. I know you live there, but anyway. I'll I'll tell you the best two breweries that I was at on my trip last year to Hawaii was Kauai. A lot of heavy German style beers there. In fact, I've been toying with starting a podcast on the other RGR channel about beer. And I may just do that, and I'll have to talk about the Hawaiian ones. But my Kauai brewing was great. My favorite is Honolulu Beer Works. Their island twists on some really classic styles is incredible. They do really, really good work. If you live there, Maui, bro, go get over to that island. And anybody who's going on a trip to Hawaii, go to Honolulu Beer Works. If you're a beer fan, you will dig it. That's what I would do. So let's see. Thanks for those comments, though. I appreciate you bringing that up. Where'd we go? Oh, I scrolled again. I lost it all. Okay, here we go. Do you believe in the Madden curse? I kind of do. It kind of looks like it happens. I think if anybody's going to break it, it's going to be Mahomes, though, so I'm not worried about it. What's your plan for the season? Will you be live streaming after or before games? Austin, right now, I'm leaning towards still doing the post-game thing. But we have a couple of things brewing. We have partners. We're real tied in with Matt Derrick and Chiefs Digest. So we do some content for him. He obviously gives us a lot of inside information and is a guest here all the time. We're working on a couple of things for him, so I can't say for certain. I'll definitely do something post-game no matter where it is. I just don't know if it'll be on here or not, which may turn into keeping this thing on Mondays, and we can just do straight Q&As, and we don't even have to do like a kind of show or anything. But I'll let you know. We'll have announcements there probably by the time training camp rolls around, if not by week 1. Hey, Matt Masters, just got back from your honeymoon on Kauai. I hope you had a good time. I didn't get up north because the landslides had been so bad last year. So I stayed on the east side of the island for a long time, dropped down to Poipu for dinner or whatever, and that was about it. But yeah, Kauai's like, it's probably my favorite island, to tell you the truth. I haven't been to Maui since I was a kid, though, so I'll find that out. And Maui, bro, you're right. I do sport a lot of Hawaii gear. My best friend is Honolulu PD, lives out there. Another good friend of mine lives in Kauai. Two of the guys I went to college with live on Maui. So I got a lot of connections out there. I've been there a number of times. I love it. It's just a little too hot for me being a, heavy set Viking looking dude. I need the winter too. So that's just kind of the way that goes. We're approaching an hour, so I'm going to try to run through these questions, you guys. Answered that one. Okay. Sam Mansker, do you see the video with Tyreek and his son? Oh, sorry. Same question. No, I haven't seen it yet, but I think that's a positive sign that it's good to see. Joshua, I talked about Hyde really early in this stream. I do think he's on the bubble. I do think Lee has a chance to start at the will. We'll see what happens. I think it's going to be a good competition. Matt Blue, thanks for your donation. And I think you should believe in John Lovett. I think he's got a good chance here. If he can continue to make progress, he can make this roster. Would you like to see Johnson and Lee in the nickel defense? Gary Johnson's a really interesting guy. He's just a bit small. He's right along the line. I mean, you could stack them. Darron Lee, Dorian O'Daniel, Gary Johnson. They're just like an inch shorter than each other. He's quick. He identifies. Can he hold up? I don't know. I think he's got an outside chance to make the roster. I just don't know. If Lee gets hurt, I think you could definitely see that happen, especially in the preseason. And if he does well enough in the nickel there, I think he could make the roster. Let's see. Alex Mitchell late to the party, but does the league do nothing before the season? The Chiefs start Hill. If the league doesn't suspend him, I think he will be back sometime in training camp. As long as there's no legal action, I think that's probably what we're looking at. Will Frank Clark live up to the high price the Chiefs paid to acquire him? Stephen Bennett, I actually think he will. Everyone that I know in Seattle, both fans and people around the team, are really missing him and feel like they made a mistake in letting him go. Now, that's just, one opinion on the way he played. I think he's a Spags kind of guy. I think he brings energy everyone that I see in the locker room has positive things to say. So I think he is going to pay off that cost. How many wide receivers do you carry on the 53? Joshua Rue, good question. I think they're probably going to take 6. I don't think they can afford to take 7. I think they need DBs right now. And I don't think you can get away with just 5. Dave Toub likes to have wide receivers and corners as a lot of the core special teamers. And I think there's good depth there. So I think it's going to be 6. I don't think it's going to be 7. Let's see here. Sorry, Hog Farmer, if I read the name wrong. I'm not paying enough attention, obviously. The people that are duping your name are duping me. Sorry. Don't worry about it. Not a big deal. Hog Farm. So this is your question, it looks like, though. Or did I skip it? No, I just scrolled against it. Never mind. That was earlier. Would you rather have a starting corner or than a tight end too? Yes, I'll do without the tight end too. I'll run Sherman as a tight end for all I care. I think they need I think they still need, in order to be a Super Bowl winning team, a corner that's better than Ward. Sack total for Chris Jones. 13. I think he's going to get more attention, so that might slow him down. But having Frank next to him is going to help as well. So I think we're just going to see how fast of a start he can get off to. I think he has good as Chris does a good job in the middle of the season and towards the end. So I think that's a positive sign. Good question, Aaron. Hog Farmer, sorry. I keep seeing you have to say things. Steve Rose, have you ever seen such a complete conversion from a 3-4 to a 4-3 in a season? We don't know if it's complete yet. They've done a lot, but we haven't seen the product on the field. It's a tough one. For most people that have gone through it in cities that have made the transition, and when you look back at when the Chiefs made the transition, it took 2 or 3 years. So there's going to be growing pains. Be prepared for that. I just think I think we're really optimistic right now, and we just got to get into camp and see how it goes. I'm excited for Spags too. I think that's going to be interesting. I think it could be big, and I think they're building it the way that Spags has been successful in the past, having a big front and having corners that are smart, or secondary that's smart, that he can disguise with, and I think that's really important. Kyle K, thanks for your donation. Who's next player do you want besides Patrick Peterson? There's nobody really on the block right now that we know of. I think somebody will get cut eventually. I can't even name a corner right this second that might be available. I mean, if you're just talking about anybody, I'd go get Trufant from Atlanta. Done deal. I don't think Dimitrov will ever let him go. Maybe if Pioli's not in the room, I don't know. Who knows how that could go? But yeah, I mean, Desmond Trufant, sure. I still like what's Kevin's name? Played at UW, went to Green Bay. Anyway, be another young guy that I like. Okay, D. Franklin, do you think that Breeland and Fuller teaming up will boost production? And that Breeland has been healthy lately. I think it will actually, and I think they played well together in particular. When you're trying to banjo routes or whatever, you have those stacks where you have to take assignments. Those guys communicated well in Washington. I think Breeland and Fuller together are going to help each other be better than they were. Let's see. Who's got questions? Justin Trobo. Thanks, Justin. Why won't Andy run the ball? If I had that answer, I'd make $1 million. I don't know. Andy's he wants to be efficient. He wants to throw the ball. It's just the way Andy is. I think he's just been burned by having teams in the past. I think he saw things in Green Bay that he didn't like, in particular when he was an assistant, just about grinding the ball out that just wasn't challenging to him. He's a chess player in this sport, and I think he likes the challenge. Good question, though. Kay Paddock, how are you? Should cut trade Hill no matter what? That audio scares me. I don't think – see, and I wouldn't make that comparison to Belcher at all. I don't think it's to that point. I think Belcher had some serious issues, and I wish his brain was being researched, to tell you the truth. And no, I don't cut Hill no matter what. I think there's a lot of You see this with stars. You see this with movie stars and rock stars, and athletes are no different. You see people make accusations that are either bigger than they ought to be or not based in reality quite a bit. And I can't say that that's what's happening here, but I can't discount it either. So I'm looking for proof. Until then, I'm not putting the organization at a disadvantage by getting in another Hunt scenario. Norman Schreck, I asked you a while back. You told me he was already signed. I can't remember who you're talking about. Sorry, bud. Sorry, Norman. I'm trying to. Oh, Saunders. Yeah, I thought he was, and then evidently I was wrong. And I think I admitted that the next week. Sorry. And then I read today that he was. So I don't know. Maybe he signed 3 weeks ago and they just didn't tell anybody. But Colin Saunders is going to be in camp. It's not going to be a problem. He's a rookie. He wants to be in camp. I don't think his representation. There's no chance he's not in camp. I think they're going to be fine. Lovett and Thompson, 2 great additions. I hope you're right. Mansker, how soon do you see a Jones extension? I think it'll be, right before camp is my guess. How difficult is it going to be with our matchup against the Colts? The Colts have improved. But I don't know that they've made a leap enough that the Chiefs need to be any more scared than they were last season. I think the only thing you really ought to be scared of is Justin Houston. I think Justin's pissed. So let's just do some designed rollouts away from Justin Houston, okay? Thanks, Justin. I appreciate that. Who's number 1 at center? Right now, it's Austin Reeder. They're repping the rookie Allegretti. I think you could put Cam Irving in there if you need to. I think I can tell you this for sure. Between Andy Reid and Andy Heck, the best 5 linemen that they see week 1 are going to be the guys that go in. And I think that's just the way it's going to be. I don't know who it'll be, but I think it's going to be whoever they think the best 5 are. Eric Saylor, how are you? I will do that. I will make up some shirts that say do because I can't help from saying that, evidently. Yeah, Hugh, I talked about Pringle earlier. Just rewind. I think he's on a good line right now. Matt Blue, thanks for yours. Nothing like good Bud Light. Okay, I'm with you. I just like them a little thicker. Sorry. Do you like Derek Nottie the whole season start over Colin Saunders? Probably, yeah. I think Colin Saunders is going to be this year's Derek Nottie. He's going to make some good plays. I just don't think it's going to be every down. So, yeah, I think Nottie's a starter, and I think he'll probably hold that most of the season. But, again, they have all these guys so they can create a big rotation. So don't be too hung up on who starts. It's really about who plays the more snaps. And I think the optimum for both Nottie and Jones is around 60% of the snaps. So if you've got Colin Saunders playing the 40% for one of them, I think that's great. And Xavier doing close to the same thing. I think Breland Speaks is going to take some snaps at tackle, so that might into it too. Sammy Watkins Pro Bowl. If Sammy Watkins is healthy for 14 games, I think he can make the Pro Bowl, yeah, because he will be a bigger target this year for Mahomes. What are we doing with 44? Dorian O'Daniel? He's number 2 at will right now. Metal Rocker X, how are you? What do you think that Frank Clark will be rushing more from the left side or the right side? He's going to stay on the right. I think predominantly he's going to be the right. They'll move him around. I don't think it'll be like a flip situation, but I think he's predominantly going to play on the right side of the defense. Daniel Riddick, thanks for your donation. Appreciate it, pal. What do you think of Devon Grayson to make the 53? I think it's a stretch. I'll tell you that. Because of Kemp and Gary Dieter on special teams. I think they do enough. I don't think Dieter's particularly good at special teams, but Kemp really is. I think Kemp's going to lock down a spot, and I think that's going to be the thing. And then you run into the Custis thing. They spent a lot of money on Custis, and I think they have to feel like they have to give him the benefit of the doubt. I don't know what that means for Grayson. I think it's going to come down to a fight, and we'll see what happens. And also, is there an article on the options the Chiefs consider Josh Norman? Does this make sense to you? I don't know whose article it was. I didn't see it. I talked about it earlier. It just depends how much zone they want to play. If they're going to play predominantly zone, then I think it does make sense. Man, we are way over. We're almost 10 over, so I'll take 2 more. What would you say to trading the Steelers for Hayden? I'd say the Steelers will never do it, and I don't know that you're going to get value back for it. So, good question. Okay, 2 more questions. Doctor, who do you think the analysts keep saying the Chiefs got worse because they didn't even if Hill was gone? I think they're focusing on Hill being gone. I think they're not putting as much faith in Mahomes. And I think there is more about Mahomes than it is about Hill. My opinion. I don't think Andy Reid gets a hot seat for a long time. I don't think 3 years is enough. Oh, I forgot about him too. Daniel Riddick, your question again. He's also got competition from Cody Thompson. I forgot all about him. He's running good routes, and I'm hearing good things about him out of OTAs too. So that just adds to the competition base there. So Grayson's in for a fight, that's for sure. Jay Kane, how many players on the defense make the Pro Bowl? I'm going to say 4. It just depends how they gel together. Matt Blue, nice, king of beers. What do you work for, Budweiser or something? Okay. At this point, I'll just call it. We're well over. Thank you guys for hanging out. I'll be back. I'm working on the studio. You can't really see it, but the studio is a total mess back there. I'm trying to get things squared away, do some new things. So I'm going to work on that. I'll be back hopefully later in the week with more video, definitely next Monday. And the podcast is running all week. So start of summer. Hope you guys have fun, but check in here on Monday nights and I'll talk to you next time.